All right, today we're going on a bit of a manhunt. Well, more like a code hunt. We're tracking down malware's most wanted.
So, let's start with a wild thought. What if code could actually be a criminal? I mean, seriously, think about that for a second. What if just a few lines of script could be as dangerous as a master thief or even a saboteur?
Well, that's pretty much exactly what we're going to do today. We're cracking open the case files on the most notorious players in the digital underworld. We're going to group them into a few key gangs. Yeah, you can think of this as our official most wanted list for the code that just loves to cause chaos.
Okay, so first up on our list, these are the masters of stealth, the ones you never see coming. Let's meet the unseen threats.
So our first suspect is called the Zero Day. And honestly, the name kind of says it all, right? This is an exploit that goes after a vulnerability that is so fresh, so new, that the good guys, the developers, have had literally 0 days to patch it. It's the digital version of a secret passage that only the bad guys know about.
And this is where the real cat and mouse game begins. The attack itself just waltzes right past traditional security. Why? Because the vulnerability is completely unknown. It's basically invisible. So the big question is, how do you stop an attacker you can't even see? Well, you have to get clever. You can't look for the threat itself. You have to look for its weird behavior. So defenses like behavioral analysis are always watching for suspicious actions, asking questions like, hey, why is that program suddenly trying to access files it's never touched before? It's all about spotting the crime while it's happening, not trying to identify the criminal's face.
Okay, our next unseen threat takes this whole stealth thing to another level, the rootkit. So if the 0 Day was that secret passage, the rootkit, well, it's the master of disguise who's already inside the building, pretending to be the janitor. It digs deep into your operating system. We're talking the very foundation of your computer, and it changes the code so that the system will lie for it.
And this is where the deception gets really deep. Imagine you ask your computer, hey, is everything okay? The operating system, which is now totally compromised by the rootkit, just lies straight to your face and says, yep, all clear. But that's the big lie. To find the truth, you need a deep, low-level forensic scan that completely bypasses the OS and looks at the raw data. And that's when you see it. There's an intruder, and the system itself is covering for it. Talk about the ultimate betrayal from your own machine.
Okay, so we've met the ghosts. Now it's time to meet the vandals. This next category of malware, it's not about hiding. It is all about causing direct, intentional damage. Let's talk about the digital saboteurs.
And first in this lineup, we have the logic bomb. This thing is basically a digital booby trap. It's a piece of code that just sits there, dormant, waiting, until a very specific condition is met. See, it's not some mindless virus. This is a planned attack, just waiting for that perfect moment to strike.
And what makes these things so incredibly dangerous is the trigger. Just imagine this classic scenario, insider revenge. So a disgruntled employee, right before they get fired, plants the code. Then the system recognizes that their name has been removed from the payroll. And that's the trigger. The condition is met. And bam, the bomb goes off. It executes whatever malicious action it was programmed to do, like deleting critical files or making a bunch of fraudulent transactions. It's a ticking time bomb, literally set by someone on the inside.
So how in the world do you defuse something like that? Well, you can't wait for it to detonate, that's for sure. Prevention is absolutely everything. For example, doing regular code reviews can help you spot the malicious script before it's even armed. Then there's this super important idea called the principle of least privilege, which basically just means people should only have access to what they absolutely need to do their jobs. I mean, if they can't get into critical systems in the first place, they can't plant a bomb there, right? And of course, active system monitoring helps you spot weird activity long before any trigger gets pulled. It really comes down to building a system that doesn't have a single point of failure.
All right, so we've gone from an inside job to an all-out assault by an entire army. Let's talk about the botnet. I want you to just imagine thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of infected computers. We call them bots or zombies, and they're all controlled by one single attacker. And their weapon of choice? A distributed denial of service attack, a DDoS. It's like they all scream at one target at the exact same time, creating this massive digital traffic jam that just brings the target to its knees.
And the scale of this it's just staggering. It all starts with just one controller.
A single mastermind, sometimes called a bot herder, pulling all the strings. But from that one person, they control this vast, unknowing army.
We're talking 100,000 or more infected machines, whose owners have no idea they're even part of this digital mob.
And all of that immense power is then focused like a laser beam onto one single target, a website, a server, an entire company, flooding it with so much traffic that it just shuts down.
Okay, we've seen the ghosts, we've seen the saboteurs. Now for our final and, let's be honest, probably the most frustrating category of them all, the ones that just refuse to be pinned down. Let's meet the code shapeshifters.
This quote pretty much says it all. You can't catch what you can't recognize. Think about it. If your security system is like a bouncer at a club with a list of known troublemakers, what happens when the troublemaker shows up in a different disguise every single night? Yeah, you can't catch what you can't recognize.
And that, my friends, is the exact strategy of our final suspect, the polymorphic or metamorphic virus. This is malware that is literally programmed to mutate. It rewrites its own code every single time it copies itself. So it's creating a brand new version of itself that looks completely different from the last one. And the whole point is to fool those signature-based scanners we mentioned earlier.
So how does it pull this off? Well, it uses a few tricks. It uses obfuscation, which basically just scrambles its code into a jumbled mess. It uses encryption to hide what it's actually trying to do. And here's the really clever part, it even changes the key to decrypt itself every single time. It's like a puzzle that's constantly changing. So what this means is that our defenses can't rely on recognizing the code anymore. Just like with the 0 days, it all comes back to recognizing the behavior. You need something like heuristic analysis, which looks for suspicious traits and patterns of action, instead of just an exact digital fingerprint.
All right, so we've been through the whole rogues gallery, right? The ghosts, the saboteurs, the shapeshifters. So what's the big takeaway here? How do you actually build your digital defense against all of this?
Okay, so let's put it all together. Here's the official rap sheet for our most wanted. For that 0 day that exploits the unknown, your best counter is behavioral analysis. For the rootkit hiding inside your OS, you gotta go deep with forensic scans. That logic bomb waiting for its trigger, you need code reviews and constant monitoring to find it first. To stop a massive botnet flood, you need really sophisticated traffic filtering and scrubbing. And for that shape-shifting polymorphic virus, the only real answer is smart heuristic analysis. The kind that spots malicious intent, not just a familiar piece of code. Are you noticing the theme here? The most advanced threats, they all require defenses that look at behavior, not just old-fashioned signatures.
And that really brings us to our final thought for the day. You know, every single one of these threats we talked about was created to bypass a specific type of defense. And then, in response, new defenses were created to stop them. It's this relentless back-and-forth cycle. So the crucial question we're all left with is this. In this constant, high-stakes game of cat and mouse that we call cybersecurity, who's actually winning?